Hello, everyone, and you welcome another appointment with Progress Over Perfection. The podcast talk about relationship and will change your relationship. Today we fly to Baltimore with Rafi Bilek, that is the director of Baltimore Therapy Center. Hi, Rafi. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Rafi, can you tell us a little bit about you and how you got inside the couples therapy work?
Sure. Yeah. So I run the Baltimore Therapy Center, where I see mostly couples. That is my thing. How did I get here? It just kind of happened, man. I never had that plan. I was actually a computer science major in college, and then I got kind of sick of just talking to machines all the time. And I was like, you know what? Maybe people are more fun. And I had a job teaching computers to little kids the year after I graduated, and I was like, wow, you could have a job where talking to people is the job and not the break between the jobs. Like, that sounds great. So I sort of pivoted, and I ended up getting a degree in social work. And I just started seeing all different kinds of clients and helping them with whatever I could. And I found that the thing that I really enjoy the most and that I'm the best at is working with couples. And so that's where I am now.
And how long is now that you're doing this job?
So I opened the up shop in 2014. So this place is open for 11 years now, but I got my degree in like 2009. So I'm 15 years in the business.
The listeners will be very happy to hear from you what you have to say about communication. That is a very important point in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's the biggest point in relationship. Correct?
I think, for most of the people that reach out to me for help start by saying we have communication issues. We have
Mm.
problems communicating. We don't know how to communicate. A lot of people really care about each other, really, want to make things work and just don't know how to talk about the difficult things that come up in every relationship everywhere. We're
Mm.
all sort of raised on this diet of Hollywood stories and, everything gets resolved in an hour and a half and they live happily ever after. And the reality is that every marriage and every relationship has difficulties and troubles and friction, and that's totally normal. But nobody ever teaches us what to do about it.
Mhm. I look. I absolutely agree with you, and this is what happened to me as well. Mm. As you say, majority of clients call in and say we have communication problem, and then you go have a look and there is other things behind the
Sure.
communication problem. Um, you wrote the book, The Couples Communication Handbook.
Yep, that's the
How
book.
how you were inspired to write these things?
So I found that I was saying a lot of the same things over and over to different couples. And I said, you know what? There's really only so many people I can see in a day, in a week, in a month. I'd like to be able to impact more people. So I put all these ideas that I have into a book and I outlined and I written it and I put it together. And here it is. It's a book.
Mm.
And I don't know that I have any vastly new ideas that nobody's ever heard of. And, this original new thing that's going to change the world. It's a lot of stuff that's been out there. I've repackaged it in a way that works. I've got some ideas and some ways of thinking about it that works. And I think it's really important to just be able to get these messages in a way that people can digest, in a way that's actionable, so people know what to do with the skills that we can teach them.
That's great. That's great. I think it's important that people try to work out even at home. There is a lot of books out there like yours that actually can help if people actually try to use them.
Yeah, I think that a lot of couples could, with if they would get the skills, whether it's from a book or a counselor or whatever, they could do great. I mean, there's some couples who really need more support, and couples counseling is great for that. But I think just sort of sitting down together, building the skills, practicing them, could do a lot for a lot of people.
Mm. What is one of misconception about communication in relationship?
One of the misconceptions that I encounter a lot is that people got this message from grandma that you're never supposed to go to bed angry. And
Mm.
I think that's terrible advice because when it's midnight and you're angry about something at each other, that is the worst time to try to have a conversation. Everyone has been in this situation where all that happens is you argue for 2 more hours and you still don't resolve anything. And now you're tired in the morning on top of everything. And it's because they feel like, oh, we have to go to bed and everything's okay. And the answer is no, you don't. Sometimes you're annoyed with each other when you go to bed and you'll survive that. Obviously, we're not talking about having a fist fight before bedtime. We're talking about you're annoyed because your husband didn't pick up his socks off the floor, or your wife is nagging, or whatever, common ideas are out there. Like whatever problems you have, it can usually wait till the next morning. If it can't wait until the next morning, you probably need to call 911. But short of that, wait on it. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. You go to sleep and you're mad at each other, but it's better than the alternative, which is a big giant fight when you're trying to go to sleep.
Absolutely. And maybe a nice sleep on a problem can help one of the two think about, well,
Yeah.
maybe she's right or is right. The
Or
day
you
after
just
you're
wake up
coming home.
and you're calmer and you're in a better place to deal with it. And about half the things that were annoying you, you wake up and you say, that's not a big deal. Now, half the things are a big deal and we have to talk about them. But the fact that he left his socks on the floor, he was tired, he had a bad day. It just doesn't matter that much anymore after a good night's sleep, like you said.
Do you help couples develop genuine empathy when they hurt and resentful?
Slowly. It's a question of slowing down the conversation and splitting it in half so that first I'm going to listen to you and then you're going to listen to me. If we're both trying to get our point across at the same time, it goes up real quick. But if we acknowledge that we're both hurting, but we'll take turns, let me hear you. I'm going to put aside my stuff for a little bit. Let me hear what's going on for you. And I'm really going to try to step into your world. And I help people step out of their own issues and into somebody else's brain, and then most people are really quite understandable. And when you step out of your own issues and into somebody else's, it makes a lot of sense. So helping people slow down that conversation, take it one step at a time, really hear each other, does wonders for communication.
What is the physical position of the body that people should have? For example, have this theory that if people start an argument standing, they're more likely to have a fight. Where if they sit, it's more likely that they regulate their tone, they're more likely to have a better conversation. What do you think about this?
So I recently saw a piece of research saying that actually, if you have a conversation lying down, it is likely to be a calmer, easier conversation, and that may well be true. What I try to do is get people to engage with each other. So sometimes you'll have somebody sitting kind of back like this, and like it's not, okay, that's not really good listening. You know what I'm saying? So help people just sit up and face each other, and use whatever body language indicates that I'm listening. So whether it's like this or leaning for whatever it is that you need to know that I'm listening, I'll do that. And if you tell me, you know what, the way that you're sitting is like making me uncomfortable, I would switch. Like I don't need to argue with you about that. I want to communicate to you that I'm listening. I'm there for you. And so whatever suits you. Again, I think it's very personal in some ways. Whatever communicates to you that I'm listening, I'll do that.
What are the communication skills that are essential for a good communication?
The first skill is take a break. That's the first essential skill. Take a break. Like we said, you don't have to do it at night. You don't have to do it right now. If I walk in and I see the socks on the floor and I'm like, there goes Mauro again, and he left the socks on the floor, that's the worst time for me to come to you and talk about the socks on the floor. We may have an issue. We may have to talk about the socks, but now is the worst time to do it because I'm ramped up and I just saw it and I want to run in and tear your face off about these socks. If I could just take a break and say, you know what? Again, this is not an emergency. We'll talk about it. We'll come back to this. And I sit and I take a deep breath and I go walk around the block or play with the dog or whatever it is. That'll be much better. And likewise, when we're already having a conversation and somehow it sort of escalates and now we're kind of like fighting a bit, take a break. Just take a break. It's very hard to do because it feels so compelling in that moment to get on that issue. But if people would take a break and come back later, a lot of conversations would go much better from the outset.
How someone can do this if there is this negative override patterns between each other? It's possible, really possible for someone that is upset with the partner constantly slow down?
I think so. If someone's telling me I am unable to slow down, I am unable to control my behavior, I think that's where we have to start. I agree that there are some things that your partner may be doing something very bad, very annoying, very inappropriate. But if you are only responsible for you, you cannot make your partner stop throwing their socks on the floor. What you can do is you can not yell at them and not put them down and not call them names. and you can wait until later. It's hard. It may take practice. It may take personal work, but you can only do you. So if you're waiting for your partner to do something better until you do something better, you're gonna be waiting a long time. But you can do you. And yes, it's hard. And yes, it's not always comfortable, but it's doable.
And how you teach people doing better conversation? What are the practical skills?
Okay, so first of all, like I said, you have to do it at the right time. If you're running right in, not going to happen well. And the second thing I told you is we're going to do one person speaking at a time. We are not going to have an argument. We're not going to go back and forth. You are going to listen to me first, and then I will listen to you. And that's going to make it much better. And the second way that we slow down this conversation is we both agree that right now in this conversation, we are not going to solve the problem. I'm going to tell you what bothers me about this. And then I'm going to listen to you, and you're going to tell me what bothers you about this. And that's all we're going to do at first. And then maybe we'll have a second conversation right away about what to do about this problem. Or maybe we'll have that conversation tomorrow, or maybe not at all. But the first conversation has to be, let's explore the problem together. Because if you don't understand the problem, you can't solve the problem. We try that all the time. We try to run in and solve a problem that's there, but you don't know what the problem is. You think you know what the problem is, but you don't know what the problem is. Because if you did know what the problem is, the solutions that you're trying would work. But everyone listening to this knows they've tried solving a relationship problem and it just came back. Why? Because there's more under it. Like you said before, Mauro, there's stuff underneath the surface. And if we explore the terrain, we're more likely to get there. So we're agreeing that in this conversation, we're just going to explore the terrain and not solve the problem. And now we got to get to the skills about talking and listening, right? So the first skill, when I talk to you, I'm talking about me. I'm not saying what a jerk you are for leaving your socks on the floor. I'm not saying you're a slob. I'm not saying I've told you so many times that you don't listen. I'm telling you what it's like for me. You know what, Mauro? When you leave your socks on the floor, I feel offended. I feel bothered. I feel stressed out. There's so much on the floor already. I tell you what it's like for me. And your job is just to understand what I'm saying. So you're going to listen in the following way. There's an acronym that I use, which is very helpful and is the best acronym ever. I'm just telling you. It's called LOVE, L-O-V-E. L is you listen to what I'm saying. You're not listening so you can think about what you're going to say next. You listen to what I'm saying. You reflect it back in your own words. You validate what I'm saying and you empathize. So that looks like this. If you're hearing me complain about how much I don't like socks on the floor, you might say, wow, Ralphie, it sounds like it's really stressful for you to have socks on the floor. Right? So you reflect it back to me. And I said, yes, exactly. It really is annoying for me. And you say, I get it. Validating me, I get it. It makes sense to me. That doesn't mean you agree. You don't have to agree with me that this is the biggest problem that we have is the socks, or that it's even a problem at all. You just have to know that it bothers me. You have to say, yeah, that makes sense to me that it bothers you. And if it doesn't make sense to you, then we have to keep talking. You know, if I said, it really bothers me, I get very angry when you open the door. You might be like, I don't get that. Could you help me understand that? But if you don't understand it, then we can't really move forward. So you're going to validate, you're going to validate what I'm saying by saying, yes, that makes sense to me. And then you offer some empathy, which is, wow, I'm really sorry you're having that problem. That really does sound annoying to have to, navigate the socks and you walk through the room. So I have shared with you what's going on for me. You have heard me. You have validated. You get what's going on for me. I know that you understand it and that you care about it. I feel heard. I feel better. And now we switch and you'll tell me what bothers you. You'll say, it's so hard for me to remember, or I don't have time, or whatever it is that's going on for you. And now I'm going to step into your world. And I'm not going to argue with you about why it should or shouldn't be. I'm just going to hear what you're saying. So at the end of this process, I know that you heard me and you understand me and care about what's going on for me. You know that I care about what's going on for you. We are in a much better place to change the problems in our relationship.
I love it. Can we repeat slowly what is love?
Yes.
Is listening,
Reflecting in your own words, validating, empathizing.
empathize.
Yeah, I go to town on this in the book, obviously.
Aside money, sex, money and sex, what is the challenge people have problem with?
Parenting is another one that I get a lot because, wow, it's just so darn hard. It's just so darn hard. And people have disagreements about how to handle a specific situation or how to do it in general. So that can cause a lot of strain between people. Another one that I see a lot of is family members. If your family members are difficult and I don't get along with them or you don't get along with them, it puts a lot of strain between us because you might be caught in the middle of, your parents and me, and that can put a lot of stress. So those are definitely big problems that people face. I think like money and sex, all of these can really be helped and improved and made better with good communication. There's not always a good solution. Like if your parents are terrible, and you still have to deal with them because they're your parents, and you still have to deal with me because I'm married to you. Then it's difficult, and there may not be a great solution, but we can make it through and feel connected and have a good marriage nonetheless, even though we have a difficult solution that doesn't have a difficult problem that does not have a great solution.
I saw the other day a couple of friends. They have a huge problem with the family member around the couple. And when you were talking about this fact, yeah, well, was coming in my mind their faces, and they're very happy. But I can see how much this connection with the family members affect their relationship, and it's sad. It's sad sometimes. How do you help them to um, have conversation about the topic? What are the 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 things that you do with them? How you help them to do it? What are the things that you show them how to do it?
So, by going through the process that I've been describing, it
Yeah.
makes it easier for them to talk about difficult things. Usually, what happens is, she'll complain that his parents are very difficult, and he'll defend them. And then she'll, get defensive herself. And then and it goes back and forth and back and forth. But when we just slow it down, we say, okay, let's let you talk about your frustrations with his parents. And you don't need to defend them. In fact, one of the ground rules of these discussions is we're not agreeing on anything. Just because you understand how much she has difficulty with your mother does not mean that your mother's a bad person. Does not mean that, we're going to stop talking to your mother. None of those things are happening right now. You just need to understand her. And so relieving ourselves of that pressure to set the record straight or to come up with a solution allows us to really hear what is hurting our partner. And that allows us to talk about these difficult subjects without it going off the rails.
And what are the things that couples should do to learn to get used to as a ritual, no, for couples if they want to build a good relationship? What are the things they should be focused on?
Look, good communication is important. That's something that you have to build over time. And avoiding those big, nasty arguments, right? Even if you don't know how to communicate well and you're working on learning how to talk about these things, stop trying to talk about it in ways that don't work, right? If you don't know how to have a conversation about his mother, then let's leave it aside for now. Getting upset and blowing up and criticizing her whenever something goes wrong, even if you're right, even if his mom is a disaster, you're not helping the situation. You know this because you've been down this road many times. You keep criticizing her and trying to get him to see, and he argues with you, and it's just not working. So again, that's the sort of take a break mentality. If it's not going to work, don't do it now. So that's one thing. Staying away from the conversations that won't work, working on conversations that do work, and then developing mindsets that will help this relationship. So, for example, one of them is noticing all the great things about your partner. That is something that everybody can do every day because, for sure, if you are married to someone, there are plenty of good things they are doing for you every single day. One or both of you go out to work to bring money in for the family. Somebody gave the kid a bath, somebody prepared dinner. So, there's all kinds of things that happen on a daily basis that you can appreciate. And then just the good qualities of your spouse. They're funny, they're kind, they're patient, they're quiet, they're loud, whatever it is that, everybody has good things. And when you appreciate what your spouse brings, it gives you a context in which to put the things that you don't like. Yes, your partner may be kind of messy and leave his socks on the floor. Okay, but in general, he's very helpful. Every time you tell him to pick it up, he goes, "Oh, sorry, I forgot again." He goes and picks it up. Whatever it might be, there are lots of good things and not that many bad things, even though the bad things take up a lot of space in our mind. If you have a partner who is mostly bad, he is stingy, angry, impatient, boring, stupid, but he's got really a good sense of fashion, you may be in the wrong relationship. If you can't think of a lot of good things about your partner, then there's a problem we have to address.
That's true. That's true. Your words make sense. Yeah. What do you think about the repair? How much is important the repair after a fight?
Repairs are critical because every marriage, every relationship has breaks. Every relationship has problems, like I said. And a good relationship is not one in which there are few mistakes. It's one in which there are a lot of repairs. And that doesn't mean that every time something goes wrong, you have to talk about it. Sometimes you had a bad day, you were snappy, your spouse gets it, you get, okay, fine. That, that might be okay. But maybe you do want to talk about it. And certainly the bigger things you want to talk about, when things go wrong, you come back and you talk about what happened. Again, it's not a question of coming back and admitting that you're the bad guy. Often you'll notice that nowhere in LOVE is there apologize. Sometimes that's relevant. If you know that you did something wrong, it's good to apologize. But more commonly, both people are annoyed at the other person. Nobody did anything really wrong. It's a question of understanding how the other person sees the world. And once you do that, you recognize they're not a bad person. They really didn't do something wrong. You're not a bad person. They recognize that you didn't do something wrong, and we're okay. So just coming back and understanding your partner and having them understand you does a lot of good for the relationship.
John Gottman talk about the bit of attention. Can you explain to the listener what are the bit of attention?
So a bid for attention is any little thing you do where you try to engage your partner. Whether it is, you point out something interesting you're reading, or you share a comic strip you saw, or you mention, boy, it's a little bit cold in here today, or anything where you are reaching out, you're making a bid for attention. And his research shows that when people turn towards their partner's bids, meaning they respond in a positive way. Oh, that is a funny comic. Oh, you know what? It is kind of cold in here. Or, I mean, you don't have to agree. Like, actually, I thought it was kind of hot in here. What, should I get you a sweater? Whatever it might be, as you're turning towards them and engaging with them, as opposed to turning away, which is, you just go, I'm busy, and you go back to your email, or you ignore them, or whatever it is. So you're missing a chance at connection. So the couples that succeed the most are the ones that really make sure to pay attention to their partner's bids.
If partners do not make attention this moment, what happened to relationship?
Well, it depends how they're responding. If you turn away from your partner's bids, eventually things kind of settle down and die. People feel disconnected. A lot of people come into my office saying we feel like roommates, like there's just no connection, there's no passion anymore. But worse is when they turn against each other, right? So you come and say, it seems kind of cold in here, and I say, you're always cold. What's wrong with you? So now I've turned that into some kind of aggressive maneuver, and those relationships fall apart pretty quickly.
Hmm. What do you know about the four horsemen?
Right. That's another Gottman concept about those are
Mm.
like the four worst things that you can do to a relationship, which is criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, right? Which all sound like pretty bad things. Right? If you criticize your spouse for who they are, if you say, hey, you know what, the dishes are still dirty, could you redo that? That's okay. That's not terrible. If you say, you are such a slop, you are so incompetent, why can't you clean the dishes right? That's criticism. That does very bad for a relationship. Contempt, even worse. Contempt is where I make it clear to you that I think you are, a pile of dog poo. I roll my eyes, I sniff, sigh. Yes, I'll come help you again. I make it clear to you that I don't think much of you. That is very toxic to a relationship.
Right.
Defensiveness is every time you bring something up, is I'll say, no, that's not what's happening. This is you. This is it. And I put up a shield every time there's some issue, and I push back. Or stonewalling is I just refuse to talk about it. Right? I'll ignore you. I'll change the subject. We just do not deal with any issues. So those are four things that will kill a relationship pretty quickly. And what Gottman found is that if he could spot that in a couple's conversations, he could be pretty sure that that couple was not going to make it unless they got some help and intervention.
Mm. There is other things that we should know about that we don't know, that we haven't talked about yet, but we should know about communication that can kill relationship.
I think I've given a pretty good overview. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. Remember, taking the breaks is important. One person gets to speak at a time. We're not going to solve the problem right now. We're going to explore the terrain. These are some basic principles that make it possible. And then, learning how to speak from my own perspective, critical, which is what I shared with you before. Like, I'm going to talk about me. I'm not going to talk about you. You're going to do the LOVE listening process where you really hear me out. Using these principles puts us in a much better place. And then there's a lot of mindsets that I talk about in the book that really help. So, people sometimes say, what are the three most important words in marriage? So some people will say it's I love you. Oh, that's great. I love that. That's a very wonderful thing. And that's not my answer. Some people say it's I was wrong. Also very nice. It's important if you're wrong to be able to say I was wrong. But that's not my answer. My answer is help me understand. You know what? I don't understand why you're upset right now. Could you help me understand? I'm not sure why it's important for you that we have, the sofa match the carpet. Like, it just doesn't seem like a big deal to me. Could you help me understand why that's important to you? There are so many things, like, people are generally reasonable. Most people are good people. If there's a problem, if there's friction, there must be some reason that makes sense. Could you help me understand that? If I come from this perspective of help me understand, we are in a much better place to make our relationship work out well.
Help me to understand. That's beautiful. Help me
Three
to
most
understand.
important words. Stick that in your pocket and keep it.
Ask a question, why this hurt you? Why this
Yeah.
important for you?
Right. Without the preconceived notion like it shouldn't hurt you or it doesn't make sense. Just try to understand it. Again, your partner probably has some reason for doing what they're doing.
Mm. How do you balance humor and lightness while addressing serious relationship problem?
Yeah, you got to know your audience. I do crack a lot of jokes at home in the office. I find that it helps couples counseling go easier when people are having a good time. But you have to pick the right times. When I am in empathy mode and I'm trying to understand my client or my wife, and they're having something painful and they're sharing it with me, that's not the time for humor, because we're at the very vulnerable part of who they are. But, when the conversation is a little bit lighter and they're not so raw and open, and, we're just trying to get there, then yeah, being fun and funny can help us get there because it's a connecting thing. Of course, I'm not talking about humor where I put somebody down. Humor at somebody else's expense is usually a bad idea and it will usually take you to the wrong place. But making jokes about myself, I'm big on self-deprecating humor. And boy, there's a lot about myself to criticize, isn't there? Okay, especially the nose. You see that it's bigger than I wish it were. What can I tell you? But you see, just like being a little humble, being a little bit fun, it greases the wheels to be able to talk about the harder stuff.
Well, look, we are two of us, see?
Yeah, yeah.
The two of us. What about, because these things come up very often, what about when people have this gridlock with this furious uh, conversation that you cannot find the way to disconnect them? It happened many times here with couples. They are rock on their beliefs. They don't want to come down. So what people can do in the moment?
I would put that through my machine, right? My machine is called empathic dialogue. That's all the stuff I've told you so far. I would say, okay, John, I know you're upset. Jill, you're very upset. Great. We're going to do this one step at a time. Let's pick one person. Jill, you're going to go to first. Okay. I want you to tell John what's bothering you. And John, your job is, I just need you to understand her. You're going to do LOVE. You're going to listen, you're going to reflect, all those things. And to be clear, you don't have to agree with her. You don't have to like it. And we are not changing anything based on this conversation. Right. So there's all these reassurances in place that John can really hear her and really accept what she's saying for what it is without having to agree, without having to change. If she says, I don't like the way you yell at me, he does not have to agree to stop yelling. That may be an important place we need to get to, but that's not this conversation. This conversation, he just needs to understand how hurtful it is to her when he yells. And then we have to switch. And then she has to understand what his problem is and why he's so upset and what makes him so angry that he yells. I don't know, but there's probably something. And the grid block comes because they're both trying to get their points across and be heard at the same time, and both trying to get the other person to bend and to hear them and to agree with them. And none of that is going to work in a case where two people have very valid points and there's strong feelings about it. It happens all the time. And we can undo that gridlock, but the same thing like in actual gridlock on the street. If two people are going down the street at the same time and they're both insisting on going, nobody is getting anywhere. But if we say, you know what, let's both pull off to the side, and then we'll agree one person goes first and the other person goes next, we can get out of it. So we slow the process down, be conscious about it, take turns.
What if this doesn't happen?
You mean what if they can't do that?
Well,
Call me up. Let's do some counseling together. That's a lot of what I do in the sessions. I hold them accountable to the process. I say, wait, John, you're talking about you again. Remember, you are listening right now. You just want to you want to reflect what you say and understand what you're saying. We'll have a turn for you. It is very difficult to do, and it's very hard to stay in your partner's perspective when you have all these feelings coming up. I don't like what you're saying. I don't agree. I don't think that's fair. Okay, but I'm putting that all aside for right now, and that can be hard. So being in the room with a third party, with a counselor or a coach or whatever it is, who can hold you accountable and keep you to the process and help you through to the end, where you see, oh wow, that actually did work. That was good. We could do that. And just like any skill that you want to build, right? If you want to become a great tennis player, you probably won't get there without a coach who shows you where the mistakes are. So to here, if you are not already pretty good at tennis, or in this case, conversation, then yeah, get a coach, get a counselor, and have them help you do this process well.
Makes sense.
Yes. Everything
But
I say makes sense, Mauro.
yeah, absolutely. What makes your approach to communication different from other relationship methods?
I don't know that it's so different in its fundamental ideas, right? A lot of people have heard of I statements, which is what the speaker's doing. A lot of people have heard of reflecting. I think what helps is that I put it all together in a way that makes a lot of sense, the way that's memorable. Again, I do have the best acronym out there, right? LOVE, very
Indeed.
best acronym out there. So it's memorable, it's actionable. There are steps you can take. You know what to do and what to say and what not to say, right? So this approach is just you can take it and you can run with it. And it takes practice. It's not easy because the things in life that are worth it are not necessarily easy. But it's just very doable. And I think you don't have to be like a relationship expert, and you don't have to know all the techniques out there. I think with this approach that I lay out in the book and that I talk to people about, it's something that people can integrate to change the way things go in their relationship. And that's why I think it's so valuable.
That's great. I want to go a little bit out from the communication things and ask you few myths about relationship that we learned growing up.
So, never go to bed angry. That's my top one. Another one that I see on the internet, which scares the heck out of me, is when people say the relationship shouldn't take work. No, that's not true. A relationship should take work. I've seen people say, if it's hard work, then you're not in the right relationship. That is totally wrong. I have never seen a good relationship that does not take work. I have been married for 20 years, and I'm teaching people how to do their marriages, and I still have to put a lot of work into it. It takes work to get good things in life. It takes work. So the idea that it should be easy and just feel right all the time, that is a terrible misconception. Another myth is that like we have to talk about everything right away. You don't have to talk about everything, and you certainly don't have to do it right away, right? Sometimes there are things that bother you, and you can just move on. If there's a big problem in your relationship, you should talk about that. But you know what? If the socks on the floor aren't that big a deal, skip it. If you're mad because you're having a bad day and you don't like the way your husband spoke to you today, you could skip it. If it's an ongoing problem, we should talk about that. But if it's a one-off thing because you were tired and he was tired, you don't have to, right? Communication is not something that has to happen all the time, every day. You use it when you need it, which is often, but not about everything.
If you can go back in time and meet your younger self
Yeah.
about things that you know today, what would you tell to yourself?
Buy stock in Amazon, for God's sakes. Um, about relationships, I
Yes.
assume that's where we're going here, right? What would I tell my younger self? Be patient. You know what? Like, I was very happy to marry my wife. We got married pretty quickly. And it wasn't like fantastic, wonderful cloud nine right away. I think it is now. Not 100% of the time. Again, like life's not like that. It doesn't look like a movie. But being patient and being ready to put in some work, there'll be ups and downs, but it's okay. Just stick with it. Put in the work and you'll get there.
How much kids, newborn, affect the relationship?
That is a big turning point in a relationship when they have their first child. There's a lot of books about becoming parents. And often what those books talk about mostly is making sure you have the tools in place to communicate about the things that are bothering you. The parenting or how tired you are or what you need or things that have nothing to do with a child, but just look, you're about to undergo something that's going to really shake up your relationship and get in the way of talking and spending time together and all these things. you better have a good connection and a good way of dealing with these things. So yeah, it really does shift the balance of the relationship. There's something else going on. You two are not the only ones there. You both got to spend time on this little thing that has no regard for you and doesn't mind waking up in the middle of the night several times. So you'll be exhausted, cranky, stressed out. You better be in good shape with each other.
I was reading these things about kids. It looks like there is around 60-70% of the couples have a newborn, have a loss of intimacy and happiness
Oh,
around
sure.
80%.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I mean, there's a big dip in marital satisfaction when the first kid comes along, and it comes back over time. But yeah, again, when you're tired, cranky, and you're getting up in the middle of the night, and you're always feeding the kid, and you don't have time to speak to each other, and the mother doesn't really feel at all like being physically intimate, and the father is annoyed because his wife doesn't feel like being physically intimate. And yeah, there's a lot of challenges there. It's a normal thing. And again, this goes to the idea that good things take work. Like kids, for most people, are a real source of joy in the long term, not when they're first born. There's a couple of moments of like, oh, this is so cute, but it's really difficult. But it goes somewhere. So again, it is normal for there to be a dip in marital satisfaction at that point. You want to make sure that you're in a good place before that happens. And then you keep working on it over the years and decades. That's the only way to get to the finish line. You're going to have to keep working at it.
And what about intimacy? Why people you think have a huge problem talking about intimacy? And if there is any suggestion you can give to them, how to talk about intimacy?
Right. I mean, it's very difficult because it's so vulnerable and sensitive, right? Talking about the stuff that goes on in the bedroom is even harder than just talking about our feelings and the day-to-day stuff. And we don't have the right words, and it's embarrassing, and it's vulnerable, and it definitely is difficult. It really helps to get communication dialed in around the rest of your stuff. If you practice empathic dialogue and get better at that, then it's a lot more possible to bring it to the really sensitive, intimate stuff, and it can work, right? I mean, people can talk about their intimate lives and their sexual preferences and the good stuff and the bad stuff in the same way, saying, "I'll listen to you, I'll hear you out, then you'll turn to me." And when you feel connected and when you feel that security that you can talk to your partner, um, then talking about the difficult stuff like your intimate details can be easier. One way to approach that conversation before stepping into talking about the nitty gritty is to have a conversation about having that conversation. Like, hey, let's sit down and talk about what it's going to be like if we try to talk about our sex life. Like, that's very difficult. And again, let's do empathic dialogue. I'm going to start. I'm really nervous about it. I'm worried that, we're going to be too embarrassed. I'm worried that I'm not going to say the right thing. I'm worried I'm going to hurt your feelings. And then you reflect it back to me and you hear, and we connect around that. And of course you can understand that. I'm sure you feel the same way. And you might say, then you'll share your part and I'll hear you. So before we get into any details or anything that, you wouldn't want to tell, the public or your neighbor or your mom, before we get into that stuff, what's it like thinking about talking about sex together? That conversation can help us ease our way into the more difficult stuff.
So you're suggesting that would be good schedule conversation about topics, correct?
Sure, that for sure helps, right? If we want to work on our intimate life, let's sit down and say, hey, you know what? Let's sit down tonight, grab a cup of coffee and talk about what it would be like to talk about it. Certainly having regular times to connect and talk about whatever's going on in your life is valuable. And if you have a newborn, it's probably impossible. But you do the best you can. So, like the rest of things in life, some things should be spontaneous and some things you say, hey, can we sit down and have a conversation? And some of them should be planned. I would say, okay, every Sunday morning over pancakes, we'll sit and we'll have a little bit of a check-in. Both of those are important factors in the relationship.
Hmm. Do you think we should plan, especially a moment where there's kids around, maybe a newborn, and we should actually schedule intimacy and relationship?
Yeah,
Because some people will say, well, sex should be spontaneous. Otherwise, it's
right.
no real intimacy. No,
Yeah,
do you think this is important?
those people are not being real because those same people who say it should be spontaneous also remember when they were in college and they had a date with their girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and everybody knew what the plan was. It's not like they went out for dinner and then they went back to the room or the dorm or whatever it is, and they're like, oh, what a surprise. Yeah, sure, spontaneous. Like, no, we all knew what the plan was, right? That's actually how it happens most of the time. So it's great if in your marriage there are times where you'd be like, hey, you know what? Let's go for it. Great, super. But to suggest that planning it is not romantic or real, I just don't think that's how even we were before, let alone how we are now. Um, but even if you really don't like the idea, you have two choices. One is you wait until the stars line up and the kids are all asleep and you have energy, or you say, you know what, Friday night we're going out to a hotel together, and that's the plan. So, yes, it would be nice if life looked like Hollywood in some ways, but it doesn't. Right in the movies, people are always in the mood to have sex. They always jump into bed, and all the body parts are working fine. It's great, and that has no bearing on real life. That's not what real life is like at all. It's different, and the things hurt, and there's mess, and there's all. It's not like Hollywood at all, and we better get used to that if you want to have a good relationship. And you can have a good relationship if you let go of those illusions that it's going to look like it does for all the celebrities.
I love it. I love everything you say. Um,
This is great. Mauro, you and me could get married. We'd be great together, right? We would
oh,
communicate well. Everything I say makes sense. This would be perfect.
absolutely, absolutely. You know, how many times people say, you're doing this job. You should have a fantastic relationship. No, it's just that I see things. I get suggestions from other people about what not to do. So I try to not do it at home, but I have my challenge as well.
Sure.
Everybody have challenge in relationship. It's impossible. As I say, if you don't want to have a challenge in your relationship, get a dog. You get a dog, and even with the dog, if you don't feed the dog or you give the dog the wrong food, they go to bite you. Every relationship have their challenges.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
thing,
I mean, I'm very happy in my marriage, and we still argue sometimes. We still have difficult moments, and I bring those into the room, and I tell my clients about them. I use examples from my own life to show them what it's like. I think bringing that home to them and making it real. Like, you're not supposed to not have problems. You just want to deal with them in a way that works.
absolutely, absolutely. I was a couple of weeks ago. A lady in a couple. She said because she does Reiki, all these things. She say, "Well, I learned from my master that my relationship, if there is too many conflict, is not healthy." Oh my God!
If you're fighting all the time, there's a problem. But
Yeah, of
there
course.
are conflicts. I have conflicts with my wife all the time. They're not bad. We're not fighting. We're not putting each other down. But like, we rub up against each other all the time because we're two different people with two different brains. And that's what happens is if you happen to share one brain with your partner, you're in great shape. Everything will work out well. Other than that, there's going to be friction sometimes.
Yeah, especially if you live in a small place. If you live in a big place, one in a room, the other one, maybe you can
It's easier. Yeah.
it's easier. All right. Well, look, fantastic. Thank you so much. Look, I would love to stay here with you another couple hours. Have a last thing that you want to give to the listeners. Um, last tips, last things
The
that you
last thing
can.
I want to remind people, I want to double down. Don't talk about it now. Take a break. That will save so much wear and tear on a relationship. I think people really have a hard time just accepting this. Like, when I feel so urgent about it, it's so important that I should not talk about it. Yes, the answer is you should not talk about it then. It is hard. It doesn't feel good, but it makes things better in the long run. I say in the book, if there's one thing you take from the book, it should be that. All the skills and all the practices, they're very important. They help. They're great. If there's one thing you remember, don't talk about it right now.
Don't talk about right now. Rafi, if someone want to work with you, where they can find you?
They can find me at thecommunicationbook.com. That is where all the details of the book are. It's also on Amazon, but you can find it there. The first two chapters are free on that website. So anyone who wants to check it out you can download the ebook, you can download the audiobook. If you like hearing me talk, I got 7 hours and 29 minutes of audiobook for you. So you can find me there and reach out. And I definitely work with people all across the globe and at my private practice here in Baltimore if you happen to be local. But yeah, I would be happy to hear from you.
Beautiful. I'm going to leave everything in the description. Thank you so much for your time, Rafi. And listeners, remember, as Rafi say, wait. Wait. See you next. Ciao.